is this Tito's?
I guess, Christian, I'll start with you. This is such a fascinating world and story. How did you stumble upon this and decide that this is what you wanted to make a movie about?
Well, I've always been interested by fringe, movements. I think there's many of them in the country right now, sort of fringe ideological movements. And this crime also just felt like a very ripe sort of a starting point to talk about a lot of themes that I'm interested in as a filmmaker. And yeah, the world was fascinating to me, and also just the themes that it explores felt really relevant.
And then what kind of research, I guess, for all of you, did you do on this? Because like the vocabulary and just sort of the whole ecosystem seems like very specific.
I get asked that a lot about different roles. How deep did you have to dig? And generally, I try to choose my projects based on scripts that are undeniable. When I read the script, I think I have to do this. This is so inspiring and thrilling. And when that's the case, it means the writing is top drawer. And so Christian has deeply researched so much of this and has known some of it in his life. He knew some people that were involved in this ideology. And so a lot of those questions are answered in the scenes. And so it required less research on my part and more questions to our director, the expert, and say, so what exactly am I saying here? And this part, do I actually believe that? And in his gentle hands, that for me, that answered most of the questions we needed to ask. Somebody else asked, how much work did Jacob and I require to develop our relationship? And again, the scenes are so well written that they answer all those questions. We know what's going on with Jerry and Joe in any given circumstance.
So then I guess the question for you is, how did you sort of research and put all of this together to make the script so tight?
Well, there's a lot of research available about this specific crime publicly. There's been some academic papers written about it, actually. As Nick said, I have had some sort of personal experience in my life with people that have had these types of, sort of delusional ideologies, let's call them. So there was a personal access point for me there. So the research, but I think, as a writer, having a lot of research and having all of that specificity is actually really helpful. And in some ways, maybe it seems complex, but it makes your job really a little bit easier because you're not just making something up, out of thin air. You've got something to kind of lean on and go back to. And then, obviously, the hard part is making that seem believable and bringing it all to life, which is what these guys all did so beautifully.
And then I guess, Jake, for you, I think a lot of people know you from, as a child actor. This feels like it's a big, new sort of bold move for you. How did you decide to take on this project and be like, oh yeah, this is something that I really want to do?
I'll take this. Or you good?
I'll go ahead on this one. Well, actually, the story itself hits pretty personal for me. My dad's a police officer, so when you hear something about this happening in the world, growing up with your dad who's a cop, there's kind of a fear surrounding that, and I just hope that our film can, I guess, Christian's kind of talked about this before, but a lot of the people who are involved with these beliefs, there's a lot of mental illness involved with it. So I just think that this film will maybe spread some awareness and maybe get some people some help, because the more stable-minded people are, the safer it is for people in that line of work. So I think it was important for me to be a part of that and to play this character.
And then Thomas, I think something that's so interesting about the movie is it's these two sets of fathers and sons, and they're sort of mirroring each other. And you have all of these scenes with Dennis Quaid. What was it like working with him?
I mean, I was a little intimidated the first day, of course, but I went and introduced myself to him as soon as I saw him sit down in his cast chair, and like all of our first scenes were just us in the car together. So that, I mean, we got to a lot of time, just the two of us, to kind of sit and just be alone together, and that was kind of important. So by the third or fourth day, we were really comfortable with each other, and yeah, it was just interesting to see him in such a kind of a. He's not soft in this, but it is like it's a sensitive, really kind of subtle part for him. He has sort of a quiet intensity in this role, and yeah, it was a real pleasure to get to work with him so closely.
And then what was it like filming all of the sort of police training scenes where you're doing all of the calisthenics?
It was
and
really
fighting
fun, but
stuff?
we didn't have a lot of time to like prepare all of that, so it was a real crash course for me and Brandon, the guy who played my partner. But I also watched a lot of body cam videos, and there's tons of stuff like that on the internet. So that was most of my research. Yeah.
And this is a very serious movie in a lot of ways. Is that seriousness sort of reflected on the set, or do you guys have more like levity to try to break that up? How does that work when the cameras aren't rolling?
For me personally, it definitely depended on the scene. Sometimes you want to stay with it, but it's good in between scenes that maybe aren't too serious or on lunch to lighten the mood a little bit. That's why I really appreciate Nick and what he brought to set. Just his joyous energy just always made me laugh. So it was good to have him on.
Yeah, I mean, you have one of the funniest people on the planet, on your set. So it definitely helped keep things light and really fun to work with, even though the subject matter was really heavy.
I didn't appreciate these guys fucking around when I was trying to, I was going Daniel Day-Lewis on this. But, each to each his own, I guess.
What was it like filming the big sort of shootout, like action scenes at the end?
It was pretty intense, honestly, because you're reenacting something that happened in real life and took the lives of real people. So it was dealt with a lot of maturity and seriousness. The stunt coordinator and the props master just did a great job and was totally professional, making sure that all the weapons were safe and that there was no mishaps going on. So we all felt really safe on set.
What would you say is was the most difficult scene to film? Sort of either from like a technical perspective or...
For me, it was, there were two pieces of, there's a scene in a gas station where the sort of finale has begun. I don't know the context here, if we can mention spoilers or not, but when we're getting late in the day and things are getting drastic for the two of us, there's a scene in a gas station bathroom where I kind of flip out and I get violent with my son, and then we end up running across a field. Those I found very difficult. The running across the field one was hard because it was actually we were running so fast that it was just hard. It was athletically hard. And there was like a hole on the path.
There was, yeah, I remember that.
We marked with like a stick. So you're trying to run and act and sob and watch out for the hole and tackle him, and so.
I agree, and it was like emotionally challenging too.
I love that scene.
Yeah.
I'm glad we pulled it off without a sprained ankle.
Yeah, seriously, it's a serious skill.
What was the hardest film for you, sort of as a director, or hardest scene as a director?
Those, I think, those weren't difficult from a directing standpoint for me. That was kind of sit back and watch these guys do their thing, which was incredible. So maybe some of the more technical stuff, I think the shootout was, we were on a very limited schedule for this, so we were moving pretty fast. And I think maybe the shootout, we had more time planned for that, but then we had some lightning strikes that shut us down. And so what was supposed to be like you know, I can't, 2 days or something got cut into like a day, and then it got cut to like half so it just kept getting cut down. It was like, wait, we're not going to get this time back. So that was a stressful moment.
How do you work around that when you have such short periods of time?
You have a great crew. You have people that are flexible. You know, what's great about this is everybody signed up to the project to really try to make something special, and so everybody was game. You know, like Nick, during the shootout, there were these periods we had to move fast, and I remember looking over, and he was laying on the ground, you know, in his like, and you know, we wouldn't usually just let somebody, you know, everybody had to get their hands dirty, basically, is what I'm saying, and so we were able to move fast because of that.
And then, Nick, you and Thomas, this is a bit of a reunion of Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. But did you guys actually, I was like, oh, this is a reunion. And then I was like, wait, did you film any scenes together? Like, did you get to spend any time together on set?
Yeah, unfortunately, just our sort of final scene together. So we didn't get a very friendly rapport.
No, but I think the
going
bond
in
is
this
still
one.
felt throughout the movie, hopefully a little bit. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, personally, I think Thomas's casting is so brilliant because when he shows up and the purpose that he serves in the narrative, his particular ebullient, sort of chipper, golden retriever quality makes him so perfectly tragic, what ends up happening to him. When I see him show up for the sort of final scene, I just think, no, not this guy. He couldn't be a nicer guy.
I know, it's very heartbreaking to watch. How was it working with the, because you have so much dialogue, and I feel like it's very specific, and you know, the vocabulary and everything is not words necessarily that I am familiar with always. What was it like as an actor, sort of like having to learn all of that?
Well, you know, it's funny. I told Christian, I sort of on my, I don't really have a bucket list like I want to be a Jedi or something like that, but it's more sort of tropes. Like before I'm done, I'd love to get to be a wizard, a pirate, a cowboy, and inspired by James Spader on Boston Legal and David E. Kelley's the monologues that he would write for James Spader in the courtroom. I just always said, man, I would love to play a lawyer with great speeches, or a preacher who is really convincing, you know, speaking with passion on behalf of justice. And while this character wasn't exactly that, it did sort of scratch that itch of getting to like persuade a group of people with my ideology and my devotion, even as misguided as it was. So I mean, it's funny. The layperson often says, "How did you learn all those lines?" And that's you know, that's mechanical. It's like it's for me. I've been doing it for decades, and so it's just like a tennis player serving the ball. It's like, well, no, I'll always hit it over the net. Then the hard part starts. So. On the other hand, it was complicated because the language that Christian gave me was confusing, and this guy, you know, he has himself baked into this really misinformed ideology, and so there was a lot to learn so that I could speak from a place of confidence using this alien legalese.
Yeah, I was like frantically Googling what mendacity meant at one part in the movie. Did you enjoy filming the courtroom scene then?
I did, for sure. Just, you know, perversely, you know, that it was one of the times that Jerry, you know, convinced himself, perhaps deeply in denial, that he was winning, you know, that he showed off for his son. Well, it couldn't be farther from the truth.
And then, Christian, I guess the ending of this movie is obviously so sad with this the shootout and everything that happened there. But then you have the scene with Dennis Quaid and the baby at the end, which I think does really like end it on a slight note of hope. Did you always sort of know that you wanted to end it that way, or were you sort of sorting through different options for that?
No, that was something I wanted. I kind of from the very, that was actually one of the earliest ideas I had even before I started writing the script. Weirdly, I don't know why, but it felt like, you know, the movie for me is really about empathy and about how we kind of deal with problematic people and situations, and so I think that's kind of symbolic of that to me. So yeah, it felt, sometimes in writing, you know, you kind of, at least for me, like I lead with theme a little bit, and so that was a real anchor for me.
Can I just say that last night I saw it for the first time in a theater with an audience, and you know, it's a hard story to watch. It's really tragic and uncomfortable and makes me feel very bad. And I have to say, Christian, that the final sort of story points with Dennis's character and the baby, I mean, they're brilliant. They save the movie and bring everyone around to a feeling of possible optimism and hope. And I just applaud them, because without those, people would hate us. They'd walk out of the theater like, oh God, who are these masochists that made us sit through this? I guess that we would be sadists. Is this Tito's?
So yeah, I guess the movie's coming out soon. What is sort of like the message that you hope people take away from it after watching?
In our world right now, there is a lot of divisive rhetoric. A lot of our information streams make money off of turning us against each other in as binary a way as possible. Whatever you think, you should be shaking your fist at some other people who don't think that. And you should sign up to our channel to find out more about who you should shake your fist at. And so, you know, we're learning, hopefully, that we shouldn't let corporations and billionaires run our world. And I think the way through that is through familial affection and community and understanding that we are all neighbors. We're all sharing these natural resources with each other. And so instead of encouraging violence or lethality or machismo, we should encourage affection for each other and all things. Even vegetarians should be welcome at our tables.